Hi, this is me, Dr. Tanya Hashik. Today's topic of discussion is joints and movement part 2. So we have already discussed that joints have been classified into three types based on structure. They are fibrous joint, cartilaginous joint and synovial joint. And again the fibrous joint is classified into three types based on its structure. And they are suture, syndesmosis joint and gomphosis. So first among them is the suture, and suture is a narrow fibrous joint, that is the space between the articulating bones is very less. An example for suture is most of the skull bones are sutures. So suture is a narrow fibrous joint. So the second one is syndesmosis joint, and in syndesmosis joint the articulating bones are widely separated and held together by a narrow band of connective tissue called as ligament or a wide sheet of connective tissue called as interosseous membrane. So in syndesmosis joint, the articulating bones are widely separated and held together by a narrow band of connective tissue called as ligament or a wide sheet of connective tissue called as interosseous membrane. An example for syndesmosis joint is shaft region of long bones in forearm and leg. That is, tibia and fibula is connected by means of syndesmosis joint. That is, the shaft region of tibia and fibula is connected by means of syndesmosis joint, and the shaft region of radius and ulna is also connected by means of syndesmosis joint. And the third classification of fibrous joint is the gomphosis. And gomphosis is a narrow fibrous joint that is seen in between the root of tooth and bony socket of jaw. That is, gomphosis is a narrow fibrous joint that is seen in between root of teeth and bony socket of jaw. That is, it keeps teeth in position. So cartilaginous joint is divided into two types based on their structure, that is synchondrosis and symphysis. We have already discussed that a cartilaginous joint is a joint in which adjacent bones are articulated by means of hyaline or fibrocartilage. So the first one among the classification of cartilaginous joint is the synchondrosis, and in synchondrosis bones are joined together by means of hyaline cartilage or where bone is united to hyaline cartilage. And the synchondrosis joints are of two types, that is temporary synchondrosis and permanent synchondrosis. And example for temporary synchondrosis is epiphyseal plate. It is also called as growth plate. That is, it is seen in a growing bone and it is covered by hyaline cartilage, and when the bone becomes mature, the hyaline cartilage is replaced by bone tissue. So example for permanent synchondrosis is sternocostal joint, that is the first rib is articulated to manubrium by costal cartilage. So example for permanent synchondrosis is sternocostal joint. And the next one, that is next classification of cartilaginous joint, is the symphysis. And a symphysis is a cartilaginous joint in which the adjacent bones are articulated by means of fibrocartilage. That is, a symphysis is a joint in which the adjacent bones are articulated by means of fibrocartilage. And it is a strong joint because fibrocartilage contains numerous collagen bundles, and that is numerous collagen fiber bundles, and that gives us a stability, and it also resists pulling and bending forces. And although it is a strong joint, it allows limited movement. So a symphysis is a cartilaginous joint in which the bones are articulated by means of fibrocartilage, and it is a strong joint because the fibrocartilage contains numerous bundles of thick collagen fibers, and it has great stability, and it also resists pulling and bending forces, and although it is a strong joint, it allows limited movement. So in symphysis joint, the gap separating the adjacent articulating bones can be either narrow or wide. An example for narrow is pubic symphysis and manubriosternal joint. An example for wide symphysis is intervertebral symphysis. That is, the gap between the adjacent vertebrae is a thick pad of fibrocartilage, and it is also called as intervertebral disc. So the gap separating the adjacent articulating bone can be either narrow or wide. Example for narrow is pubic symphysis manubriosternal joint, and example for wide is intervertebral symphysis. So the last one is the synovial joint, and synovial joint is structurally classified into 6 types, that is pivot joint, hinge joint, condylite joint, saddle joint, plane joint, and the ball and socket joint. So the first one among them is the pivot joint. So in pivot joint, the round portion of bone is enclosed within a ring, and it is formed partially by articulating with another bone and partially by the ligament. So the round portion of bone is enclosed within a ring, and it is formed by partially articulating with another bone and partially by the ligament. So we have already discussed that in pivot joint, the round portion of a bone, that is the projection of a bone, is enclosed in a ring of another bone, and it is held in position by means of a ligament. So it rotates only in a single axis, that is, it is uniaxial. An example for pivot joint is atlantoaxial joint, and in atlantoaxial joint, the upward projection of axis is articulated with the inner aspect of atlas. That is, the upward projection of axis is articulated with the inner aspect of the atlas, and it is held in position by means of a ligament, and it helps in head to turn side by side. And another example for pivot joint is a radio-ulnar joint, that is, the proximal radio-ulnar joint is also example for pivot joint. So the next one is the hinge joint, and in hinge joint, the convex end of one bone articulates with the concave end of other bone, and it only allows bending and straightening, that is, only a uniaxial movement. So example for hinge joint is elbow joint, and in elbow joint is formed by the trochlea of humerus, that is the convex end, and the trochlea notch of the ulna is the concave end, and this form the elbow joint. And other examples for hinge joints are knee joint, ankle joint, interphalangeal joint, etc. So the next one is condylite joint. It is also called as ellipsoid joint, and in ellipsoid joint, the shallow depression at the end of one bone articulates with a rounded structure from an adjacent bone to form the condylite joint. That is, shallow depression at the end of one bone articulates with rounded structure of another bone. So example for condylite joint is metacarpophalangeal joint and radiocarpal joint. So in metacarpophalangeal joint, it is formed by the distal end of metacarpal bone and the proximal end of phalanx. It forms the metacarpophalangeal joint. That is, the distal end of metacarpal and the proximal end of phalanx form the metacarpophalangeal joint. And another one is the radiocarpal joint. It is formed by the shallow depression in radius and the scaphoid lunate and triquetrum bone, and it allows biaxial movement, that is, bending and straightening, and also the side to side movement. So the next one is saddle joint. In saddle joint, both articulating surface is in saddle shape, which is concave in one direction and convex in another direction. That is, both bones are concave in one direction and convex in another direction, and it allows the bones to fit like rider sitting on a saddle. So functionally, it is a biaxial joint, that is, it helps in movement in two directions. So example is first carpometacarpal joint, that is the joint between trapezium and the first metacarpal bone at the base of thumb, and it helps in opposition, and opposition is a distinctive feature of a human being. So saddle joint, in saddle joint, both articulating surface is in saddle shape, and which is concave in one direction and convex in another direction. So the next one is the plane joint. It is also called as gliding joint, and in gliding joint the articular surface is either flat or slightly curved, and the motion at this point is small or tightly constrained by surrounding ligaments. That is, sometimes the motion is restricted by the tightly constrained surrounding ligaments. So we have already discussed that motion at this joint is sometimes reduced by the tightly constrained surrounding ligaments. That is, based on shape, it can have multiple movements, but not all these movements are possible for all these type of joints. That is, it can either have single movement or several movements. So example for plane joint is intercarpal joint and intertarsal joints. And another example for plane joint is acromioclavicular joint. So, so the last one is the ball and socket joint. It allows great range of motion, and in ball and socket joint, the rounded head of one bone, also called as the ball, fits with the concave articulation called as the socket of adjacent bone to form the ball and socket joint. So the rounded head of one bone called as ball fit with the concave articulation also called as the socket to form the ball and socket joint. So example for ball and socket joint is hip joint, shoulder joint, etc. And in hip joint, the head of femur is the ball and acetabulum of hip bone is the socket. And in shoulder joint, head of humerus is the ball and the glenoid cavity of scapula is the socket. So it is also called as multi-axial joint because it allows wide range of movement. And this is the end of this video, and in next video we will discuss about various movement of these joints.